Hello and welcome to the week 13 video. I wanted to introduce a little bit about the article that you read, which is titled The Impact of a Question-Embedded Video-Based Learning Tool on E-Learning. I thought this was an interesting study to read for several reasons, but the most prevalent reason was that the author was interested in trying to find out more about best practices with the use of technology. In this case, the technology being the use of instructional video within instruction. There are a few things to note with regard to the study in general. First off, you may have noticed that the author's name is a little unusual. He is a professor at a university in Turkey, so that has influenced to some degree certainly the sample of the study. Turkey is, along with Australia, New Zealand, and England, one of the countries that produces quite a bit of research on educational technology. So while this particular group of people may not apply directly to who you work with, the results definitely can be extended to other groups of learners, including those that we work with here in the US. The author is definitely very interested in the use of video in instruction. This is not the only study that he has written. In fact, if you read the introductory sections of the document, he talks about another study that he had conducted in conjunction with another author previously that looked at the use of concept mapping along with instructional video. So he's definitely very interested in understanding ideal ways to integrate video into instruction beyond just the simple act of hitting the play button and having students watch the content. And another thing I thought was interesting in terms of the relevancy of this particular study is that while the author of this particular study was examining the use of instructional video in an online class, I do think that the results can be applied to situations in which the instructor is either using instructional video as part of a flipped learning model, or if the instructor is using video in more of a blended learning environment where students are meeting with the instructor face to face, but perhaps there is worthwhile instructional video that would target curriculum that the teacher wants to address. Often in quantitative studies in particular, the authors describe a theoretical framework or foundation for the study. The theory is really it's sort of the hook that frames what's being examined. And in this case, the author describes two relevant theories, the first of which is constructivism, which likely is a theory that most of you are familiar with from your teacher preparation background. The main premise of constructivism is that learners can't be passive. They need to actually interact with the content to be able to construct their own knowledge. So that's sort of it in a nutshell. It's summed up a little bit better in the article itself and certainly more fully in the article. And in addition, the author talks about cognitive information processing theory, which is tied to constructivism, but also looks more at the cognitive processes that go on within the brain as learners engage with content. The design of the study was established so that the author could determine whether students who interacted with instructional video with embedded questions performed better on assessments related to class content than students who had access to the same videos but didn't have questions that they were required to answer. So he was interested in understanding the impact of these questions in conjunction with the video. The sample was comprised of university students who were in a teacher preparation program. They were enrolled in a computer literacy course that was an online course. So again, as I said earlier, this could impact the generalizability of the results, since it is adult learners and not children, and it is a fully online class as opposed to a face-to-face class or a more blended kind of a course. The treatment group watched the videos, but in order for the videos to advance, had to respond to questions that popped up during the actual display. So in order for them to advance, they had to be able to correctly answer the questions. There was a long series of videos, approximately 80 videos, that they had to watch in order to be able to advance from one to the next. The author didn't talk about the specifics of how the video and the questions were designed, but certainly as a result of this class, all of you are at least familiar with Edpuzzle, which is the resource that I've been using to tracks who watches the videos a little bit better than some other resources and allows you to go in and review different components if you need to rewind a little bit, but I can see all of that as well. And Edpuzzle also is a resource that allows the teacher to embed all kinds of different questions within the video. So we've done that a little bit earlier in the semester. We haven't done it for a few weeks, so obviously this week there are embedded questions as well. And Sophia is another resource that I'd like to mention. Those of you that took the multimedia class last year had the experience of using Sophia, and it is a resource in which it's kind of like a learning management system like Blackboard, although a little bit different because it's sort of centered around videos, but it also allows the instructor to attach questions to video content that's there, and it does allow users to have multiple tries on each question. They have to answer 3 questions correctly in order to be able to successfully complete the task. But that's another resource you might look into if you are interested in attaching questions to embedded video or to videos. The control group had access to all of the same videos that the treatment group had, but they did not have questions to answer that aligned with the videos. In addition, the control group was allowed to access the videos in any order, or they could choose not to access them at all, so they had more control over the timing and the pacing and whether they wanted to watch the whole video or not than the treatment group did. I want to talk a little bit about the results of the study. I think the narrative portion of the article is pretty straightforward, but I wanted to clarify a little bit about some of the statistical information that's present in the article. One of the analyses that the author ran is called a multiple regression. The multiple regression results are displayed in Table 4, and a couple things to note. First off, in a lot of European countries they use commas where we use periods, so all of these commas here would be periods if we were writing them. And basically what a multiple regression allows you to understand is the degree of impact of each variable on the outcome. So their outcome was student achievement or performance on an assessment that was given related to course content. And what this particular analysis was looking at was the relationship between the number of interactions with the actual questions related to the videos on achievement. So the p-value is less than 0.05, which means it is statistically significant. In fact, this p-value is a very, very small number, meaning it's highly significant. And then the beta, which is this value right here, actually tells us the strength of the relationship, and it is about a 0.30, which is a kind of a roughly moderate relationship. But since it is significant and we're running it in a regression, that's actually a fairly meaningful value in terms of practical significance. The next table is also interesting, although this is not a multiple regression, but this table shows just the descriptive information that examines the interaction with the learning tool by the control group and the treatment group, along with time spent with the learning tool by both the control group and the treatment group. So I assume that these are minutes. It doesn't say anywhere for sure, but we look at about a 4.2 compared to 198 for the treatment group. There's a substantial difference between the interactions with the videos just based on which group the learner was in. And then also the total time spent with the learning tool, 6.35 versus about 190. There's a substantial difference between the groups there as well. But another notable difference is the standard deviation. Standard deviation is the amount of variation within each group. And we view that in conjunction with the mean. So the mean here was 4.2. The standard deviation is about 4.2. It means that there's a lot of variation relative to the mean. In this case, the standard deviation is even greater than the mean. It's huge. It likely means that some students did very little interacting with the resource, while other students likely viewed the videos multiple times in order for them to respond to the questions. And then similarly, in terms of overall time spent, there's a lot of variation across both groups. The author also ran the analysis of covariance, which is abbreviated ANCOVA. This is a test that is conducted when the author has a bit of information that's related to the outcome, but something other than the outcome, that can be used to equalize the groups. In this case, the students were placed into the control group and treatment group based on which section of the course they had enrolled in. So it's possible, and in this case the author demonstrated, that the groups aren't equal to begin with, that one group could be brighter than another group, one group could be more experienced than another group, or so on. So the covariate, or the piece of information that is collected in addition to the outcome, is used to mathematically even out the groups. So in this case, after mathematically evening out the groups, the results of interest are really on this line in which there are numbers going all the way across. So that shows us that even after controlling for initial differences, that the treatment group had a higher level of achievement than the control group. So here's our p-value. It is less than 0.05, so it does mean that it's statistically significant. And then what we would do is look at the actual means of the groups to determine which one is higher than the other. So again, the treatment group did perform better on the the post-test than the control group did. So you do have a few more questions to respond to, but that's basically it for the video. Thanks, have a great day.